Hello and good evening. I'll give it just a second. I see some people are joining in. My name is Catherine Kaplan from SEB Housing. And tonight we're going to be running the lottery for the 18 affordable rental units at Redtail Crossing in Wrentham. We're going to get the lottery underway in just a few moments. If you have any questions during our session, you're encouraged to go ahead and unmute yourself. You were muted as you came into the meeting just to minimize any outside noise. But if you have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can type it into the chat in Zoom. As you came into the session, you heard that the meeting is being recorded and it will be posted onto SEB Housing's YouTube channel later on in case you need to reference it. First, before the drawings, just want to give you some background information on the lottery and how many applicants applied. So there's no need to write any of this down because it will be provided to you in an email with the waiting lists that are generated following the lottery. You'll get that email tomorrow. So all households who are being entered into the lottery should already have a lottery application number, and that number was in the form of a series of numbers. So in this case, it was A.001 through A.014. So please let me know if you don't have that number, if you forgot it, you misplaced it. I won't be calling out anyone's name tonight during the drawing, just to protect everyone's privacy. So you will be listening for your application number. So this lottery is for 18 total affordable units. There were 14 completed applications. So there's going to be 14 households in the lottery. And there are 14 two-bedroom affordable apartments. And there were 8 completed applications for those 2 bedrooms. There are 4 3-bedroom affordable apartments. And there were a total of 7 completed applications for those 3-bedroom units. So back when you completed your application, you will have indicated and SEB will have confirmed your household type. And that's either household type 1, 2, or 3. And that basically corresponds to your household size. So you want to keep in mind that for the 2-bedroom waiting list, type 2 and type 3 households are going to have equal priority over type 1 households on that waiting list for the 2-bedroom waiting list. And for the 3-bedroom waiting list, type 3 households will have priority over smaller type 2 households. And this is because the program, the affordable housing program, is designed so that households don't have priority for units that have more bedrooms than their family might actually need. There's also local preference for several of the affordable units at Redtail Crossing, and you were informed on your lottery eligibility notice whether or not you qualified for that local preference. So all of this is to say that as the drawing is happening tonight, you unfortunately won't know exactly where you fall on the waiting list. But, and that's even if you're drawn first. If you're the first number called, you still don't know if you actually will have first choice at the units. And that is because I first still need to sort the results from tonight according to those priorities. So the bedroom size and then also local preference. So the good news is that I'll be sending out the finalized waiting list to you by the middle of the day tomorrow. And once you receive that email, you'll be able to find your application number and see precisely where you stand on the 2- or 3-bedroom waiting list. Just a reminder too that there is one household who indicated interest and was eligible for both the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, so that household will see their number on both waiting lists. All right, so we're required to have 2 drawings for any lottery with a local preference. And so what'll happen is I'll do a drawing for the households with local preference. There were 4 households in this case with local preference, and then I'll do a second general pool drawing with all 14 households. And that will include those local preference households. So if you have local preference, you're going to hear your number more than once. And that's just because we need to be able to sort the results properly. It doesn't mean that you have, your number is on the waiting list twice. That's not the case. It's just the way that we need to do this. So For this specific lottery tonight, we're also going to need to do a preliminary lottery preference drawing for, a local preference drawing for minorities. And we're going to start out with that. The reason for this drawing is because according to the Affordable Housing Program rules, the number of minority households in the local preference pool needs to be at least as high as the percentage of minorities in the surrounding area. So in this case, Wrentham falls within the Boston area, and the minority percentage is 33.4%. There were 4 households who qualified for local preference. Only one of them reported being a minority group. So 1 in 4 households is only 25%. That's lower than the required 33.4%. So to start out, the first thing I'm going to do is do this local preference minority drawing. It's just going to take 1 second, but I want to explain it to you just so you kind of get the gist of what I'm doing. So there were 9 households who identified total as minorities on the lottery. Only one of them was local preference. So the lottery numbers for the other 8 minority households who were not already part of this local preference pool are going to be placed in the box, the lottery box I have here first. And I'm going to draw one number out. That one household is going to be added to the 4 local preference households, and that's going to make for a total of 2 minority households out of the total 5 local preference households. That'll be 40% minority, which will be greater than the Boston area's 33.4%. So I know all that probably doesn't make much sense to you, but I do want to make sure that you understand what is coming. So after I've done that minority local preference drawing, we will have the required minority representation to go ahead with the local preference drawing, and there'll be 5 households. Once I finish the local preference drawing, the local preference household will be added to the general pool drawing, and it's going to have the 14 households, the 14 total households that are in this lottery. And that will be it. I'll have done all 3 of the drawings. And like I said, I recognize that a lot of this isn't going to make much sense until I start doing it, but I'm just assuring you that this is the way that we need to do it. So when I start the drawing, I'm going to be putting these note cards into the box that I just showed you. And I will show the number to the camera. I will say it out loud. I'll jot it down so I can have a record of the number it was drawn, so I don't have to watch this video again. And then following the lottery, each household is going to be sent an email which includes next steps in the process. And it's going to summarize a lot of the information that I'm mentioning tonight, and the lottery results from tonight along with the waiting list will be included and attached to that email. So when you receive that email by midday tomorrow, you're going to have a much better understanding of where you fall on the waiting list. You're going to notice that on the waiting list, the top households are highlighted in green, and that is because those households are going to be invited to immediately move forward and complete a lease application with the leasing office. The leasing office's contact information is going to be on that email as well, and we will have shared your contact information with the leasing office. From there, you would be contacting the leasing office to schedule a tour, coordinating your lease application, and hopefully reserving one of the affordable units. So your placement on the waiting list determines in what order you'll be able to reserve a apartment. So if after we've sorted and distributed the waiting list to you, you're the first person on the 2-bedroom waiting list, for example, you're going to be the first household to select a unit. So that's why it's beneficial to be at the top of the waiting list, because you will have first choice at units. Maybe you want a unit on a certain floor in a certain part of the building, and that will be beneficial to you if you're towards the top of the list. So if you're not one of the top households on the waiting list, you won't be moving forward at this time. However, if for any reason one of the top households, one or more of the top households might drop off the waiting list and ultimately decide not to rent a unit at Redtail Crossing, you may be, or any household further down the waiting list might be contacted to move forward. So your takeaway should be If after I sort the results tonight, after the lottery, you're not one of the top households, we're not going to be contacting you unless one or more of the top households drops off the waiting list. And that does happen sometimes. So you shouldn't lose hope in that if you see that you're at the bottom of the list, for example. So it's also important to keep in mind that SEB Housing has already found your household eligible for the affordable housing program, but you haven't been found lease eligible yet by the leasing office. So you want to be sure that you don't give notice to your current landlord or property owner right now, because you don't yet know if you're qualified. Even if you're at the top of this waiting list, you don't know if you're qualified for their lease requirements yet. So just hold off on that. And then just one final piece of information before the drawing. Just a reminder, if you do end up renting one of these affordable units at Redtail or anywhere else, there is going to be a recertification process every year. So, and that'll be with the leasing office. So you're going to want to just maintain a file for your household, income, assets, taxes, have all your paperwork ready for when that time comes, for as long as you're living in the affordable unit, just so you're organized and have all of that and you're prepared when you get a notice. All right, any questions before I move on to the drawing? I'm going to start with that minority local preference drawing. All right, so I have 8 cards here that represent the 8 households who identified as minority that were not already local preference. The cards are here. I'm going to put them in this box, and I'm going to cover on here. I'm only drawing one, and this is the household that is going to be added to the local preference drawing. I'll be doing in just 1 minute. That number is A.003. All right, so I am going to move that person to the local preference drawing, and the other households that I did not draw from that pool are going to be put over into the general drawing, which we'll be doing in just a minute. Now moving on to the local preference drawing. Local preference drawing now has 5 households here. I'm going to call all 5. And that's giving me the order in which the local preference households will have priority when I'm sorting the results. The first one is A.002. This is a local preference drawing. It's going to be 5. A.005. A.003. A.012. One more here out of the 5. A.008. All right, that was the local preference drawing. Everyone's number is going to be called in this next drawing. It's the general drawing. So there will be 14. Got all 14 here. I'm going to shuffle them up a little bit. And I'm going to put them in the box right here again. And this is the general drawing. So all 14 households, you should hear a number in this one. A.006. A.009. A.008. A.001. A.002. A.012. A.007. A.013. A.010. A.004. A.005. A.011. A.003. Got one more left here. A.014. So that was all 14 households in the general drawing. So what I'm going to do after this call is sort everything by priorities, which would be the bedroom size, and then also local preference. And we're going to have the results out to you in that email that I mentioned by midday tomorrow. I'll wait around right now in case there's any questions on the drawing or what you can expect going forward. But that was it. Any questions? All right, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be in touch. Like I said, by midday tomorrow, you can expect an email from us, and there will be attachments to it, including a write-up of some of the information I shared today, and then also the waiting list themselves. All right. How many local preference for the 3 bedrooms? I can answer that for you. Just a minute. And that will be in the handout that you get as well in the email tomorrow, but I can tell you right now. So for the 3 bedrooms, there were only one household. One household qualified for local preference for the 3 bedroom units. And there's 4 units total for 3 bedrooms. Anybody else? All right, we'll be in touch tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in, and have a good night.